So I thought this might be kind of an interesting video of the whole idea of basically traditional working versus modern working. In the sense, traditional working would be you'd be basically in an office, some sort of business building, you'd be working with people at a physical level, versus what a lot of people prefer, home working. Now, you've probably seen Dilbert. If you haven't, I'll just do a quick introduction to the Dilbert cartoon, the TV show, and the books he was doing and all the rest of it, in his magazines and his online services, before he obviously passed away. So, in Dilbert, you have the main character Dilbert, the engineer, who works in a cubicle. Now, the cubicle itself has been proved on many occasions to make people more unhappy being in a cubicle. Now, people have tried to rework a cubicle, so there's 2 in a cubicle, 3 in a cubicle, 4, 5, 6, 7, have a window, have a fan, a range of things to try and make it more attractive and charge people more money for it, and a range of things which seem to never really work in reality or ever go anywhere to try and improve the whole cubicle setup. It's been proved on many occasions that a high proportion of people all around the world, in a lot of cases, prefer to work from home, which includes me and many people in the world. Some people, for example, prefer working in coffee or tea shops, that's fine, or a library or somewhere else. You can work anywhere you want if you're basically doing something which you don't need to be in an office setup. A lot of the jobs itself can actually be done in most cases without having an office environment. I mean, for example, if you're a joiner, a plumber, and you have to obviously go to houses and buildings to do work, then that obviously can't work as well. You have to, in theory, be in some sort of working environment where you have to go physical places. But if you're doing one of the many jobs that can be done online, you have no limits to where you can work. You can work in a forest if you want to, as long as you get internet access, or a beach, or the middle of nowhere, it doesn't really matter. As long as you get internet access one way or another, you can do these sort of things. It's also been proved on many occasions that most people prefer, in general, working from home. So this concept that someone's sort of bringing up about the idea that people should have to work in office, again, it doesn't, because another thing you have to consider, which I can recall quite well in different places I worked, in a lot of cases that I found in places I worked, you'd often have staff trying to do things such as backstabbing each other, gossiping, trying to do dirty to them, all the rest of it. That itself is a common thing. I've heard it from many people all around the world that sort of happens in a lot of businesses. Now, you can argue that's down to these people, it could be, but it's quite a common thing in work environments either way, whether you want to say it happens more in one organisation or another, it doesn't really matter. But if you have people working from home, that problem doesn't happen, so that alone can boost productivity. If you have a group in a firm who often hate each other, which I've seen happen many times, for example, I can recall quite well when I was working in ASA, you'd have sort of rival groups that would try and backstab each other all the time. That itself was very common. You'd have different groups that say, "Oh, I don't like him. I don't like him." So I mean, so you'd see every so often. I didn't get involved. I couldn't really be bothered, and I thought it was pretty stupid. But I used to see quite often at work, you'd have 3 women, 3 men, or whatever version of it happens, or a bit of both. You'd have them look at each other like, "You're stupid," or give each other evils. And I couldn't be bored, but to me it's a waste of hell of a lot of time. But I can recall it happening all the time, and I can recall seeing it happen many times in businesses I've been inside. You'd have some rival or person that hates everyone for some reason. I don't know, maybe we were married in the past or something like that went wrong, I don't know. But I can recall it happening all the time. So you find in some cases, for people who are apparently doing jobs, you find in a lot of cases some people spend half their shift or even a whole shift trying to do dirty in someone else, which is not any useful purposes, but that itself was very common. But if you're in an office environment, if you're in your own house, you can't backstab yourself, so it doesn't happen. You also can't get distracted by also gossip or the rest of it, because you haven't got anyone to gossip with. I mean, if for some reason you particularly prefer working in office, that's more, then fair enough, and go for it. But most people don't like your setups, because you always have these sort of self-made issues, often made by other people. It can be made by your boss, your manager, whatever you got. And I used to always see sort of things play out. You'd always have sort of some weird setup, you'd have people trying to get each other fired because you don't like them because they slept with someone else's partner or some crap. That itself was very, very common. I would always see that going on. I'd always see, some new things going on. I mean, I'll give you another example from someone I've heard of before. So someone almost got fired at somewhere because basically they broke a policy. I'm not going to say what policy is in case someone reports someone for saying it again, but basically they broke a policy. I wouldn't consider policy that important, but because someone else, the person was working with, reported them or backstabbed them outside of work, that person almost got fired for it. It was just simply reselling something. Basically they got cheap, which personally I don't have any issue with that, but either way in some companies that's illegal or not allowed as a policy. So because of that person almost got fired for it, which to me seems stupid and a waste of time. But if you have in companies like that, particularly in bigger companies, you'll often find these sort of things always go on. You'll have people who hate each other for whatever reason. You'll have little rival groups that hate each other. I mean, in some cases what it reminds me of more is, high school or primary school logic, oh, I'm friends with him, I don't like you. And that's why in general I would never really recommend, unless you have some real need that you have to work together. So for example purposes, if you're a chemist and you have to work with other chemists, if you're in a pharmacy and you have to obviously do that, that's cool. But outside of these things where you have to work with people, you have some reason you need to work with people on a physical basis. For most people, working at home, a coffee shop, a library, or wherever you want is cool. I mean, one of the things I can recall in the past when I was living in Glasgow was I thought was quite cool is Glasgow itself is a pretty big library. Even though it's a big library, it's sort of quite a chatty one to a certain degree. Even though it's a big library and you have like hundreds or however many people are there at a time, you don't really have any of these distractions work. So for example purposes, even though people be talking about whatever, it doesn't really matter, they don't really go out of their way to distract or annoy you. They're not there to backstab you, you're not there to do it to them or around. That's why in general working for a library for a lot of people can be fun. Or if you want to use a semi-common example I've seen or I've heard from people before, they work out of say Starbucks, Costa, some other fast food place, some cafe, coffee shop, whatever it be. You have always options of places you work, so you don't have to have to go back to the Dilbert idea, you're stuck in a cubicle as a whole. I mean, if for some reason you like working in a cubicle, I don't know anyone who does, but if for some reason you did, then if that's what you're really into, then you could buy a cubicle if you want to and just work out from your home, or a cubicle wherever you want it to be as a whole. And that's why in general I would never really recommend for most people working in an office unless for some reason you have to do it. If you have to do it, then hey, it's one of those things unfortunately. But for me and most people, they'd much prefer rather working from bed. I mean, for me, I find the most comfy way to work is sitting in a bed. Again, that's my preference. Some people might say, no, I prefer a chair. If that's what you're into, cool. If you're into the whole standing desk idea, I still find it funny and stupid, then use the standing desk. If that's what you think is comfortable, if that's what you think is cool, then hey, use a standing desk or use a beanbag or whatever you want. It's your choice. You got no limit to how exactly you can work. I mean, if you want to work for some reason your kitchen, then work in your kitchen. You want to work in your bedroom, your living room, your dining room, your pool room, whatever you got, then go for it. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Thanks. Bye. Adopt 2 ferrets and have a good day and good week. See ya.